Good evening and welcome to Sim Racing Online. We are here for the second round of the 1950s Grand Prix series. I'm your host Neil Wood and I'm going to be taking you around 60 minutes of racing around this classic 1960s version of Sachsenring. And we will be using some 1950s cars based on the Goodwood, Richmond and Gordon Trophy. So we have a number of classic cars which I'll introduce in a minute, but need to go through what is the order of the day. So as I say, 60 minutes of racing. We have a 6-round championship. We've already done the first round. The first round was at a track called Pescara. That was 25 kilometres of a track going around the country roads in Spain. But we are now in Germany at the Sachsenring, the 1960s version of the Sachsenring, which is again round the country roads. It's a circuit not used now. Opened in 1927, and this version of the track was disbanded in 1990 because safety concerns were obviously a thing, and you will see why when we take a trip around it. So, second round of this championship. So we're going to be heading to Dundrod in a week's time. So we'll be going over to Northern Ireland on the 19th of March. And then we'll be heading over to the Napoli coast in Italy for the fourth round. And then the fifth round we'll be heading over to France for Rouen. And our last round we'll be heading to the beaches of the Netherlands, classic version of Zandvoort. On the 9th of April. So the story so far, we did have a classic round, 60 minutes of racing around 25 kilometres of country roads, and this is how the championship looks so far. So we are using the standard version or the older version of the point system, so it's 8 for a win, 6 for second, 4 for third, 3 for fourth, 2 for fifth, and no points for 6th place. So only 5 points finishes in this championship. The stewards did let me know beforehand that there are no fastest lap points this time. So Maddie Shepherd is leading the championship at the moment with Tony Talbidi in second, and Grant Van Osch in third, Julian Paws in fourth, and John Van der Geest currently in fifth. And we have our other 9 scores below. So let's have a look at the cars that we will be using in this championship. So we start off with the Aston Martin DBR4. A lovely looking car, and a lovely sounding car. Debuted in the 1959 Dutch Grand Prix. Nice leather seats in the back there. Then we have the Connaught Type B. I don't think this is a car that many people have chosen so far. I am seeing that maybe one person has chosen it in the list there. 1955 British Grand Prix was its debut. Then we have the popular Cooper Climax. Now the Cooper Climax was a popular choice in the first round. Very short wheelbase. Very fast in a straight line, it seemed. I thought it was going to be lagging back, but debuted in 1957 in the Monaco Grand Prix. And then we got the beautifully sounding Ferrari 246. So the 246, as you can imagine, has a wonderfully raspy engine. Debuted in the 1958 Argentine Grand Prix, which would be at the Buenos Aires track. And then we have the unique looking Lancia D50. Now the Lancia D50 fuel tanks on the side. It's getting it's kind of not quite open wheel, but open wheel. It's a distinct layout of car. A few people took that last time out. The Lotus 16, we saw, I think it was Gert Van Osch that took the Lotus 16. Seating position all the way back in the rear there. Debuted in the 1958 French Grand Prix at, I believe that was Reims. And the last of our cars our drivers will be taking on, it will be the Maserati 250F, debuted in the 1954 Argentine Grand Prix. Particularly one of my favourites. So, back to the night's action. Let's see what's happening out on track. We've got a couple of drivers out on track practicing at the moment. And let's see what all the action is about. So, as I say, this circuit was started in 1927, and this layout of circuit did end up being defunct after 1990. Now you can see kind of why. Country roads here of the circuit. Lots of elevation change, which is going to test a lot of our drivers. I'm really looking forward to seeing what kind of test this is going to give our drivers. We did have the country roads of Pescara last time, so this should be easier in comparison, but the corners are a lot faster. There's a lot of items to collide with as well. As we see Tony Salviti currently in the Cooper. So over the brow of the hills, a lot of bright blind crests in this. I wonder if some of the cars are going to get air. You really have to memorise some of these turns. Make sure you're not running wide. You do end up going through a couple of villages, and I have looked at the track map. And there's a couple of sections which I don't really want to pronounce. my German pronunciations aren't really the greatest. But Tony Salviti is coming to what is the end of the lap. Coming to Queckenberg. Down into this big, huge dip, and then you have to be hard on the brakes and making sure you don't brake too late for this, one of the slowest corners of the track. Bit off camber as well, as you can see, hard to keep that apex. Surrounded by bales as you come across the line. So another driver has decided to take the Cooper, which is Kostas Kanzeris. So Kostas Kanzeris was quite high up the order early on. Did drop back at Pescara. Did end up taking 8th place last time out. Looks like the wheel is coming under the bridge. So he's coming to the Badberg section. So again, over these crests, I'm sure we're going to be going on board. And we have some close battles on track. So the compression coming through some of these dips. I don't know, looking that Cooper came off the ground there. There's not really many straights on this track. It's all just curves. Through the rows of trees that are very reminiscent of Le Mans. So all the way down the hill. Lock up. So this is coming into the MTS curve section for Tony. Heading all the way up in one of the straightest sections on the track, up into the Jurgen curve. So another one of the tight corners on the track, braking hard under the bridge. It's very deceptive, this corner, because you've got to find where that apex is. It's slightly banked, which helps you come around or carry the speed. So plenty of places to come over at Press. It feels like a rally course in some respects, a tarmac rally. So down the hill into Heiterblick. Tony gets it a little bit wrong. I think he turned in a bit too harshly there. And those trees are solid. So Matthias Estrella in the Lancia D50. Very nice sounding engine. did spot that some of the drivers were having a lot of trouble with this car at Pescara with some of the tight turns. It seemed a bit heavy. It's Phil Brown in the blue Lancia. Lancia coming down the hill. So you go through a couple of villages on this track. It flashes by very, very fast. And particularly through the villages, you've got to watch out for the curbs. The curbs are lethal. So you've got telegraph poles, you've got trees, you've got fences, you've got hay bales, all kinds of hazards. A lot wider than we had at Pescara, but this track is only 8.6 kilometres long. So a lot shorter than Pescara was, so we're going to be doing more laps tonight in 60 minutes. I don't expect there's going to be any particular pit stops. You won't have pit stops for tyres, that is. Drivers will just be filling up their tank and going. So ahead of Kanzurus, I think that is our first look at the Connaught. So I think that was Christian Dauger in the Connaught there. So the drivers decided to pick the Connaught. So Christian Dauger was in the Ferrari in the first round, but he's decided to switch. So the drivers will be doing a 10-minute qualification session in about 2 minutes or so. So with lap times on the board, fastest lap time to 44.0. So they're going to get quite a few laps in. And pause coming across the line in Cooper. So lots of green Coopers just keep me on my toes, unfortunately. So whereas we saw in Pescara, there was lots of tight country roads and it was very difficult to pass. The only places to pass were the long straights, but this course is going to provide a little bit of a different challenge. There are some really hard or harsh stopping zones on this track where perhaps some outbraking manoeuvres could happen. We'll have to see what the drivers come up with. Trees and down the hill. I'm sure that Cooper is probably on the brink of grounding out at the bottom of the hill. The compression seems quite severe. As you know from the 1950s Grand Prix cars, they're quite softly sprung, so they can probably handle that kind of compression. I'm seeing a big ditch over the side there. You don't want to be going too wide over the side of that track, otherwise you'll be ending off in the undergrowth. We had a couple of dramatic crashes last time out. A couple of drivers got it all wrong. I did see them go off into the scenery, but they somehow survived. This might be a very similar thing. It looks like we are changing over to qualification. So we are bang on 8 o'clock. It is now time for qualification. Looks like Tony Talbiti wants to be the first out on track. So just to give me a hand, I managed to get all the logos working in the tower there. So you can see the cars each driver is taking. So Tony Talbiti just waiting at the end of the pit lane for the lights to go green, and they've gone green and away they go. So can we match the 244? Can we get to the 243s? I'd imagine that now they've taken a little bit of fuel out. 243 seems possible. So Let's see who's going to be top of the timesheets as they come through the village for the first time. A little bit of rubber has been put down in practice, so it will be completely clean. So stay away from those pavement curves, and then out into the countryside we go. So we've got a green Cooper that's following Tony Talbiti out at the moment. I'm not sure who that is. One of many. So let's see if we can have a look at some of the other cars on track. Here's Gert van Osch in the Lotus 16. A very unique looking Lotus 16 with the driver position all the way back. These are the days when they had the engine up front and put the driver out the back. So Gert van Osch is following Phil Brown in the Lancia D50, I believe. Let's have a look at Marius Lapioda. Unfortunately, he's in the pits at the moment. He's actually our only Ferrari runner. He's decided to sit out of qualifying for now. Jim Cavallo, our sole Maserati runner. So the Maserati 250F. So Jim managed to get a quite well-earned 6th place last time out. He was down near the end of the top 10, but capitalised on a few people's woes, accidents and such. And then we have that Connaught of Christian Dauger. So Tony Talbiti coming off the line to start his fastest lap. We do have the game controlling some of the cameras today, although I can switch to other stuff if I need to. And I think we do have a slight yellow flag there. I don't know who that was. They seem to have cleared the track. Well, really, because I think Tony Talbiti was on his way to that section of the track. Coming around this really tight corner up the hill to cut the beam for the first sector. And see what kind of time we've done on the first sector. It's Costas Catanzouras that is just behind them. So 61.9 is Tony's first sector. Catanzouras is the next one across that first sector line with 62.3, so slightly down. But plenty of time to go. I imagine they're going to get a couple of laps in. John Van der Geest having a little bit of a spin there. Saw that he was stopped on track. He's managed to get going again. So Gert van Osch seems to be the fastest first sector on the track at the moment with a 61.7. Tony Talbiti has come through for his second sector, 43.1. He is purple. Down the hill, up the hill. That's always seems to be how this course is. It feels like a bit of a roller coaster. Jumping over the crest there and trying to get your wheels back on the course and the car settled so you can go over these crests. The car goes light down here. Can't imagine what it felt like in real life. The circuit did have cars, but it was the majority of the time it had motorcycles. So you can imagine the motorcycles or classic motorcycles going around here. So first time on the board, 2:44.9, slightly slower than practice. That's a hell of a jump for Maddie coming over the top there. So he got the car, I don't know if that was by design, got the car pointing right at the apex in the air. And managed to miss any solid objects, but she's really pushing on this first lap. It's up to 61.3, so pretty competitive. So Gert Van Osch has come up to second, Kanzurus is third, Pause is fourth, Dauger is currently in fifth. And Shepherd comes across the line and where will this put her? In fact, I think Natalie Shepherd may have been on an out lap there. She's pushing on if that was an out lap. So Tony going for his next fastest lap. It's always the strategy. I wonder whether these drivers like a car to follow. Not sure how much of a slipstream you really get with these cars. Whether you want the distraction of a car ahead or you want something to chase is completely up to the driver. So Talviti does have 1.5 seconds on the rest of the field at the moment. We've got a little bit of catching up to do. Van Osch coming through the dip. Car goes light. As we see, that's a car going off in front. From who that was. It may have been the Connaught of Kristen Dauger. Gert Van Osch has 1.5 seconds to find. I imagine these cars do take a little bit of warming up. Back in those days, the tyres would be very durable. Take a little bit to get heat into them. So stay away from that gravel. It sucked the car off nearly into the undergrowth there. He was able to keep it from going any further off track, but that's going to ruin his momentum up here on one of the fastest parts of the circuit. Blind crest up, it's hard to judge the speed over that left-hand crest because the car goes light. You don't want to go too wide, because if you do go too wide, you are heading off into the scenery. There are some nasty solid objects you can hit. Into the last corner, taking a really wide line to grab a late apex and trying to get on the power and get that thing straightened up as soon as possible. So across the line, Gert Van Osch has now dropped down to fourth place, and Kanzurus has picked up the baton for second. Two Coopers fighting over the line. It's Maddie Shepherd and one other driver there. So Talviti has got provisional pole, Kanzurus second, Shepherd third, Pause in fourth, and Van Osch in fifth. So Talviti's gap has now gone down to 0.5. Pushing on with those locked tyres up the hill. You can hear some locked tyres behind him as well. Braking hard down to the under the bridge, taking a wide line in here, trying to get the rear end to step out a little bit to take that turn. If we go down the hill. So down through the village, very fast right-hander, so down very suddenly and then up The crest. You need pace notes for this track. So the timer is out. Everybody is on their fastest laps. So Kanzurus is still out on track. So he may be able to improve. Don't always trust the sector times here, but apparently personal best in the second sector, coming up to the last corner on the track. As it comes into the bits, I don't think that's going to be an improvement for Costas. So 2 more cars out on track. We've got Gert van Osch. And Estrella in the 50. So Estrella currently in 6th place. Osh and the Lotus. So again, Osh coming to the line. Again, he's coming into the pits. I don't think he could improve his time. One more car out on track. He's coming to the end. Is Romain Lebreau. He's going to finish off his lap, but he's down on pace at the back of the field. That's a 2:51, and he gets up to 9th place. So there we go. There we go. Set the starting order. As we move over to the warm-up session, where people can practice their standing starts, etc. So if we look at our starting grid, so Tony Talviti came out on top. It does look like a Cooper front row there, with Kanzura 2nd, Shepard 3rd, Pause in 4th, Gert van Osch the first Lotus in 5th, Estrella the first Lancia in 6th, Cavallo in 7th, and Christian Dauger in 8th, Romain Lebreau in 9th, John van der Gies in 10th, Phil Brown in 11th, Marius Labiode in 12th, and our last driver on the grid will be Ben Summers in the Cooper. So Coopers seem to be the car to have. It is a popular choice. Maybe these cars do have the same physics. They do have handling characteristics that are a little different between the cars, but they are technically the same kind of physics between them. Tony Talviti looks like he's coming out pits just for a little bit of a warm-up. I think I can get my track map working for the race, because it seems to be malfunctioning. Drivers coming out on the track. So if you've been around in sim racing for a while, you will notice this track, being one of the classic ones from Sims back in the day. So I believe it was around in the Grand Prix Legends days. Fitting in the theme, 1967. It was never a track that really held any Formula 1 Grand Prix. So it formerly held the Cycle World Championships from 2005 to 2014, 2018, and back again in 2023 and 2024. And you've got the ETCR, which is the E-Touring Car World Cup in 2022. They even had, for 1 year, the FIA GT1 World Championship in 2011. That wasn't this configuration of the circuit, which was obviously disbanded in 1990. circuit actually came back and reopened in 1996 with the smaller layout. Now this circuit does share at least part of the front straight of the original circuit. Not the original circuit, the current circuit, which is dwarfed in comparison. That is only 3.6 kilometres. So currently this holds the German Motorcycle Grand Prix 1998. The break in 2020, but still up to the present day. You got the East German Motorcycle Grand Prix as well from 1961 and 72. It also has a round of the DTM 2000, 2002, then came back in 2023 and up until present day. I can't imagine modern cars or motorcycles going around this circuit. Far too dangerous. Far too dangerous. You see drivers just taking a little bit of a warm up, a little bit of a practice. Start is on a still on a curve. You're going to be heading into a fast right and left, and the circuit is wide enough to be able to go too wide through some of those curves from the beginning. Drivers were very tentative at Pescara for good reason, because of the tightness of the circuit. They're maybe pushing it a little more at this circuit. We didn't have many dramas on lap 1 at Pescara. I think they were thinking of how long the race is and how big the circuit is. So air temperature of about 28 degrees, track temperature about 41 degrees, so quite warm. That should be sufficient to warm these solid tyres. Well, they feel solid anyway. So, winding down to the start of the race, it will be a standing start. We're not doing any kind of things with pace laps or anything like that. And let's see how it's all gridded up. They did have 3 in a row on the front of the grid last time at Pescara. So I wonder if it's that configuration. No, it's 2x2. Staggered start. So you can see all the Coopers there, all lining up. That is the view from Julian Paws. You can see the lights quite easily. So we head into a right-hander and then a quick left-hander, and here we go. Moves up and away we go. Oh, it looks like Kansaruras has made a blinder at the start, although through from the second row, I think that's Paws. Side by side, I just saw off in the background there. I'm not sure who that was. But we'll stay with the action at the front. I think that was Estrella that got caught up. He's stopped out on the circuit, but through the village for the first time. So, it's Cooper. Slight break for a Lotus 16, but it is a Cooper fest up front. And Van der Geest in the only blue Cooper out on track. Or is that the Connaught? That might be the Connaught. So Gert Van Osch trying to mix it up with these Coopers on the first lap. Yoda and to give best to it looked like John Vandergeest, but so side by side. Gert Van Osch did have problems in the first part of the race last time out and had to work his way back through the field. So third last time out. He needs to make up a little bit of time. The leaders will end up getting away from him. Eddie Shepherd ahead. Along with Kanzurus. So this is John Vandergeest and Lebro. John Vandergeest in a very dirty looking Cooper. Nice and oily. So Julian Paws ahead of our pole sitter, Tony Talviti, on this first lap. Julian had a good run at the first round. Made a couple of mistakes which dropped him back, but he had good pace. But he's now got a clear track ahead of him, but he's got a really fast guy behind him. Tony's got to be very careful that he doesn't push too hard and end up come to grief through some of these turns. Down the hill for the first time. We'll be coming across the line for the first lap. Slight wiggle from Julian Paws ahead. Eddie Shepherd and Kanzurus feel like going side by side across the line, but not quite. Can't quite get the traction down to pass. So the top two are ahead of the second two, third and fourth. You can see on the track that Ben Summers may have had an off as well, because he is down in order in 12th. So Phil Brown, that meaty engine of the Lancia D50, trying its best to keep up with the Ferrari 246. These two Coopers ahead are nose to tail. We did see this in the first round as well. Maddie Shepherd and Tony Talviti were nose to tail for much of the first stint of the race. And just remember, this is a 60-minute race, so no pit stops to break things up. So is it the case of that Tony just hangs back and maybe waits for Julian to make a mistake, or perhaps goes for an early pass? And the Lancia D50 of Phil Brown chasing Labioda in 6th there. Two really noisy engines. Hopefully I've got my volumes correct from last time out. It was a very noisy start to the Grand Prix. Looks like Estrella is having more problems stopped on the road. The leaders will be coming up to that section in a minute, so hopefully he's able to get his car to a safe place. So down to this double, what seems like a double apex as Tony goes to the inside. Did he snatch a break? Was he able to get it up the inside? No, he wasn't. I think Julian probably saw him at the last minute. Probably tried to turn in and there was already a Cooper there. So Tony trying very hard in the first section of this race to get in some clean air. Here's the lap car. It's good that the leaders saw that lap car on the right hand side. We're down to keep out the way. We've got our first DNF. It's Gert Van Osch that is our first DNF. Unfortunately, yeah, podium sitter last time out is our first DNF. I'll have to find out after the race what happened to Gert Van Osch. But he was looking good for 3rd or 4th, but unfortunately he came to grief early on. Hopefully not a technical problem. So side by side, Ferrari versus Lancia. Phil Brown down the hill trying to pass this Ferrari. This could be one of the big passing places. But a very off-camber left-hander. Can't really wait until you can get onto the power. second and third. Maddie Shepherd in third seems to have dropped Kanzurus. Labioda and Phil Brown are oh, Labioda must have forgot which corner he was at there. Tried to throw the car in, and unfortunately the corner was a little bit tighter, and I think he may just bang the wheels against the barrier flat there, so he may get away with that. So Tony Talviti is about to have Maddie Shepherd for company. So that two-way fight up front is now going to turn into a three-way. So fastest lap of the race is Maddie Shepherd with 2:47.3. So a little bit of, we did see the times come down in the first round to come close to the qualifying time. So with a full 60 minutes of fuel, these cars are very, very heavy. So you can see Maddie Shepherd just shadowing in the background there. So Tony really had a little bit of a stab up the inside of that left-hander. I don't know whether it was a case of a little bit of braking wrong and he didn't mean to make a pass at the inside, but we were on board at the time, so it was quite hard to see. And we've got our next DNF, unfortunately, Mattis Estrella, I think was the first spinner that we didn't see on the screen. It's come to a stop somewhere on the circuit, so it's unfortunately our second DNF. 52 minutes to go. Tony is having another push. So down the hill to the last part of the circuit. They're going to come across 11th place of Ben Summers. Julian Powell gets it all wrong, and that put Tony off. And so last place you want a bit of oversteer coming through that final part of the corner, part of the course, but Tony was right up his rear end and was able to save it. So Julian Paws has put a lap time in, even with that bit of oversteer at the end, 2:45.7. So we're coming down towards qualifying times. With just 10 minutes gone. So through the village. Now we've definitely got a 1, 2, 3 fight in this race. Now, key for these drivers is to keep their cars unscathed. I don't think driving around with any kind of suspension damage around some of these faster turns is going to do anyone any favours. So keeping your wheels on your wagon is the phrase I like to use. Down the hill and through the trees. So it's Powell, or Pause, as he corrected me with. Tony locking the wheels coming down the hill, coming through that compression. It's like he's struggling to get it stopped. I've seen him mention about braking problems. A slow car on the left hand side. I don't know if that's a slow car in trouble or just getting out of the way of the leaders. It looks like he's going very, very slow in the background there. So something may have happened to one of the other Coopers. So just under 10 minutes gone, or just over 10 minutes gone. It's Pause, Taraviti, Shepherd, Kanzurus and Geest. Kanzurus in fourth is kind of out on his own as well, with Van der Geest. A couple of seconds back, or no, 9 seconds back. So spreading out the rest of the field. It's only this top three are within a second of each other. But it is Cooper's in the top 5. So it is the car to have. Shepherd in the background, you can see going wide down the hill. Tony Talviti is not letting off the pressure. No such oversteer moments for Julian Paws coming through the last turn. Taking some very wide lines into these corners. Trying to stay in the groove. Banking can help you round in this first section of the track, and then you head through the village for the first time. Not really a place to pass up here. It gets really, really narrow as you come up the hill. So Tony is doing very well to stay this close. He's going for another push. Has a little bit of a break and then seems to drop back. And then there's another push. So this is where the course starts opening up as you come out of the village. And as the track gets wider, the course gets faster. So coming up to the straightest portion of the course, over into the second sector, down the hill through the tree. Now this is where the draft could happen. Very fast section of the track. Going into an off camber left and a little bit of a crest. So Christian Dowger is in the pits. I don't know if that's for damage. Christian Dowger currently in 10th. Only Connaught in the field. So we're taking the big wide line into this corner here. Trying to get a late apex. Matty Shepherd has dropped back 1.7 from Tony in second. So the only other battle on track at the moment is between John van der Geest. Phil Brown has now caught John van der Geest. But we are sticking, the camera director is sticking with this battle, and for good reason. Tony gets it all hooked up, coming over that section of the track. Julian tries to go a bit faster than I think he wanted to through there. Side by side down the hill. So Tony's got to go all the way around the outside to get the inside for the turn into the last. So Julian Paws did get it all out of shape. Looked like he was carrying far too much speed, and here's the battle for 5th and 6th. Thank you, director. So Phil Brown has now caught John van der Geest. But back up front. Now that Julian Paws has been passed by Tony, Matty Shepherd is. It looked like Julian Paws perhaps is letting Matty Shepherd through. Perhaps he pushed a little bit too hard there. He's just taking a little bit of a breather. Maybe it's tactics. Maybe he's letting Matty Shepherd go ahead. Maybe Matty Shepherd can be released and attack Tony. So this is a switch about of round 1. Matty Shepherd led from start to finish, but the relentless pressure from Tony was lap after lap. So through the village, John van der Geest gets a hop up on the curve there. Gets a hop up on the curve, and there's just enough room for a D50 to get up the inside. And through goes Phil Brown to 5th place. So, seeing a yellow flag out on track. This is the Connaught of Christian Dowger. He has got going again. So he recently came out of the pits. But he's managed to get going. So has John van der Geest got anything in reply to the Lancia D50 of Phil Brown? So now it's only the top 4 that are Cooper, Climax T43. Phil Brown is the first car that is a different make. So, battle resumed, but switch around. So Matty Shepherd now in second place, being followed by Julian Paws. So does Julian Paws just want to Maybe following the wheel tracks. See if they can gain on the car in front. And since Tony Tauvita's got to the lead, looking at lap times, he is the fastest car on the circuit with a 2:45.3. We'll have to see what kind of lap time he's now doing now he's got clear air. It's 2:47 the last time. So Dowger is in the pits again. I wonder if he's having all sorts of problems. So Vandergist is holding on to the coattails of Phil Brown. So looking at my sheets. Looking down at my sheets, Julian. Where are we? So Vandergist did get a 5th last time out. We are missing a few drivers that were here last week, which is unfortunate because they're going to drop a few points. The point system is quite strict, with only going from 1st down to 5th. So Phil Brown was one of the most dramatic exits I think I've seen from a race so far in round 1. He ended up finishing down in 13th place. We saw that blue Lancia flying across the background of one of the shots. So now that Tony has set free, and he has indeed put a fastest lap of the race in 2:44.7. Maddie Shepherd only in the 2:46.6 last time out, so Tony is pushing on while he's got the space. Christian Dowger has decided to park it, unfortunately. After 2 trips to the pits, it looks like he's maybe had enough for today. This is Ben Summers in the Cooper, on his own in chasing 9th, and Jim Cavallo. So the group up front, we're having a little bit of stuttering, not sure where that's coming from, but John Vandergist plods on. His dirty looking Cooper. Julian Paws has dropped back quite considerably from Shepherd. Now Shepherd is released. Now down to the 2:45s. Tony is going even quicker. 2:43.8. It's faster than the qualifying time he put in earlier. So pushing on. Is this the strategy? Make sure you can get some lap time in, make sure you can pull out a gap. So this is now Jim Cavallo. Oh, stepping on the gas a bit too much, coming out of that corner there, getting the Maserati fully sideways. Well held. So following the remainder bro. Over the line, under the bridge. So now that the battle for the 1st, 2nd and 3rd has calmed down, we've got a battle for 8th and 9th, Cooper versus Maserati. So 39 minutes to go. We did see some mistakes creep in last time out. We got to half distance, and I think a few people are getting a little bit tired. The circuit is pretty full on. There isn't a lot of places that you can have a little bit of a break and rest your shoulders. At Pescara, at least there was a couple of long straights where you could take your hands off the wheel, have a little bit of a stretch. Here it's corner after corner. It's only perhaps this bit of the circuit where you can perhaps have a little bit of a stretch coming down the hill, but then you've got to be prepared for this fast right-hander quickly into this left over the top. Don't try not to run wide there. Tyres coming off the racing surface, it looks like. Cavallo, our only 250F runner in the field. No one decided to take the Maserati. I always get it a little bit mixed up with the Ferrari. The body shape is very, very similar. So with 37 minutes to go, we have unfortunately had our 3 retirements, which are Christian Delga, Van Osch and Matthias Estrella. Julian Pause in third with this guy. It was that guy, but who's that? That's Marius Labioda in the Ferrari. In fact, our only Ferrari in the field. So I wonder if if Jim Cavallo can hang on to remain the in front. He seems to be not letting him get away. Let's see if he gets the oversteer moment that he had last lap. Maybe he's learnt not. That's much better, much smoother. It's very easy in these cars to forget that you're lacking in grip but not in power. It's a very tight section of the track coming through the village, coming up the hill. Stay away from the curbs and the pavement. Looks like the Bro is suffering through that tighter section, and the Maserati of Cavallo is able to stay with him. Slight left here, flat out through this section. Side by side, could this be side by side? I think he might have the run. Not feeling as confident down into this section though. But that seems to be a place that can get close, and maybe if he's a little bit closer before that section, perhaps could take down the hill. But it's a very, very treacherous downhill section. You're braking and turning at the same time as you get heavy compression. Look at the speed of that Maserati. The Bro covers the inside as it goes for as it goes for a wide line. Unfortunately, Cavallo had nowhere to go. Now, I did say he was going for a wider line. He cut in for that first apex. Hopefully there's not too much damage. That seemed a bit unfortunate. And a little bit too wide. Getting it on the dirt. I think he in fact flipped that Cooper, but managed to right itself on its wheels. So hopefully these two drivers don't have a significant amount of damage. And then the Bro just came to a stop, and Jim Cavallo could not avoid him, unfortunately. So it was a jump scare for me, so I'm not sure what it was like for the driver in the cockpit. So Talviti still out front. Shepherd in second by 5.7 seconds. At the back we've got the Ferrari of Labioda, a little bit out on his own here. Talviti out in front, stretching his legs a little. He is running the pace of the field, 2:44.3 last time out, with Matty Shepherd only putting in a 2:45.1. So it's good to see that these drivers were able to keep going. It's always annoying to see people drop out from little accidents, but that did seem quite large, and I did expect that there might be a bit more damage. We'll have to see what happened with them after the race. So Julian Pause isn't letting those two drivers ahead get away. He's only 2.9, 3 seconds back. So it was quite action-packed in the first section of this race, where Talviti was chasing Pause. A slight mistake from Pause managed to give Talviti the opportunity to get through to the lead. And then Julian Pause dropped back even further. I believe it looked like they let Matty Shepherd through. It's at 10th place. The flag. It is 10th place. It's Ben Summers, unfortunately came to grief. He's managed to get going. Phil Brown coming over these crests. He's now free of John van der Geest. He's got 14 seconds now to catch on Costas Kanzuris. So I'm wondering if Romain Lebreau can close back up on the Maserati or Cavallo ahead. It did look like Cavallo had probably a little bit of pace. Touching dirt on the outside, you don't want to do too much of that because it does drag you off the track. So the key things with these cars is the little micro corrections. You can drift them a little bit, but just you've got to be quick with the corrections on the steering. So once you got past a certain point, the rear end will overtake the front. So no dramas going through the last corner and across the line for the next lap. Romain Lebreau. We've got to do the opposite. He's now chasing rather than being chased. So we've got 7th place up. That's Labioda in the Ferrari. He's facing the wrong way in the village at the moment. He's got to get that thing turned around. And off he goes. There we go. The car, I don't think it's crabbing an awful lot. It looked a little bit weird as he got away, but hopefully he's able to continue. He's in 7th place at the moment, just outside the points. So no sign of stopping for Tony Talviti out front, still putting in the fast lap times at 2:43.8 that last time out. As Cavallo just gets past Ferrari of Labioda. In fact, that was for position, so Cavallo is now up to 7th place with Lebreau going through as well. So that was a costly mistake from Labioda. So the closest battle out on track at the moment is Phil Brown and John van der Geest. As I say that, the director switches to Labioda having I wonder if his car is damaged because he's having a little bit of trouble out on track. So Phil Brown with John van der Geest chasing on. He's only 2.3 seconds behind. And again, this battle between Jim Cavallo and Romain Lebreau. It's within 2 seconds. So that seems to be the cursed corner. Dropping a wheel on the dirt. That gravel seems to just take you off the track. But Lebreau looks like he's able to get it back on the track. Let's see from my track map. So, 28 minutes to go. Tauriti in first. Shepherd is second. Paws in third. Kantzuris in fourth. And Phil Brown is in the last of the points paying positions. So the top 5 have now spread out quite considerably. It's just 5th and 6th that have to work out whether they want to have a point or not. So this is for 2 points if John van der Gies can overtake Phil Brown. Phil Brown is currently in the last points position, so hopefully he's able to stay ahead. Or has John van der Gies got something for him? We did see the Coopers down the straight last time out. They weren't slow. So John van der Gies locking up the tyres and banging off the limiter a bit coming down the hill. I don't think we saw any people having mechanical problems last time out. It was mainly unfortunate accidents. So it looks like these cars are quite robust in terms of mechanical damage. I know that they, the admins turned down the damage a little. So John van der Gies in his very dirty looking Cooper. That's a custom skin, a couple of custom skins people are using. And then Lebreau, after that little bit of off, has now dropped even further behind. He's now 15 seconds behind Cavallo, unfortunately. Eddie Shepherd just doesn't seem to have the pace to catch up with Tony today. That car looks a little bit loose coming into some of these corners. We've seen that little Cooper wiggle a couple of times. So I wonder whether she has decided to set up the car a little bit looser to maybe have a car that could turn late on in the race. So Tauriti continues out front, no particular troubles. He seems to be on the pace, 2:44. Fastest car on the field at the moment. Cavallo comes over the hill. Odioda is in the pits. I wonder if this is possibly heading to retirement or perhaps wanting to repair that car. He had turned the car around, so I wonder. We didn't actually see the collision. So I'm wondering if there was possibly some damage. I did see them stop out on track again after the accident, so I wonder if they were suffering a little bit of damage. In fact, he has decided to DNF. Unfortunately, that is our 4th DNF. That is our Ferrari out. So Odioda calls it a day. After the flurry of action in the first few laps, these Coopers were together for the first portion of this track, the first portion of this race rather. Now split up a little. But it did look like these cars could follow each other on these faster sweeping turns. And the geese maybe dropping a little bit back from Phil Brown. Just checking the pace. I think Phil Brown is able to get into the 46s. Van der Gies is still currently in the 47s, so maybe Phil Brown might be able to secure that 5th place and that 2 points in the championship. So, new fastest lap for Talvidi, 2:43.4. Still pushing on. Car gets lighter. No damage. Getting air over the top of the hill, Phil Brown in the Lancia D50. And down the hill to the last portion of the lap. So now Jim Cavallo is out in zone a little bit. He doesn't have anyone in his mirror, so after that accident, unfortunately Labro span and flipped his Cooper. They looked like they're up to their pace that they were at. So Andy Shepherd coming up the hill out of the village. No particular worries from behind. Kevin Paws is quite significantly down. It's looking like Ben Summers is possibly crabbing that Cooper. It does look like he's going a little bit slower in that portion of the track. So over the top. The Cooper looks a little bit unruly when it lands. I can't see Phil Brown ahead of Van der Geest now. Oh, Van der Geest is 10 seconds behind. He must have had an accident on that lap because he just did a 2:53. So John Van der Geest was within 2 seconds, but unfortunately I think he might be a little off somewhere around the circuit. Ben Summers comes across the line for the next lap. It does look like we have 7 laps to go, which is 21 minutes remaining. So Julian Paws is in the 2:44s. And Zeus is probably going to drop further behind. He's in the 2:45 range. As you can see, it's now 12 seconds. So this will switch up the championship a little. If Tony can keep it going in first, it'll be 8 points for first. And he will get 6 points for second. And Julian Paws will get 4 points for third. Now at this point in the race, I sometimes like to put in the points, but I don't like to jinx the race. There's such a thing as a commentator's curse. It has happened and it will happen again. So 20 minutes to go. Only 4 retirements so far. I think we've got more retirements than we did have at the last race at Pescara, which is quite surprising considering the length and I would say the difficulty of each of those tracks, comparing them to each other. Brown kicking on in 5th. It's very sedate now that Tony is out front. No particular worries coming through that corner, the late apex. Oh, we cut away from, I don't know who was that was going completely sideways there. I'm not entirely sure, but they were able to gather it up. Didn't see any yellow flags, so they were able to get it going again. So up to the last turn, Tony Palviti in front by 12 seconds. $18 minutes to go. Just over Phil Brown. Lovely sounding Lancer D50. You can see those fuel tanks on the side. Now from the look of it, it looks like a really heavy car to handle. But Phil Brown seems to have to wrestle it around some of these corners. And the Cooper coming down the hill between the trees. Across the bridge goes Phil Brown to the end of the lap. So, last time out, Kurt Van Osch was able to get into third place. Unfortunately, he is a DNF this time around, so he will possibly drop down the order. So still a little bit of oversteer, still pushing on. Julian Paws is pushing on. And Summer's still going in 9th place. And it's always worth it in these races to just keep going. You never know what might happen. Difficult cars and difficult course configurations. I'm filling in the confirmed DNFs on my spreadsheet, so that is that Cavallo just. It looked like maybe Cavallo was recovering from a little accident there, because Lebro is right with him. So battle resumed between these two. Let's hope that Cavallo doesn't have any damage. Board with Lebro, went over the line for another lap. So Cavallo had built up a little bit of a lead, but that has all been washed away by probably the tiniest of offs. Very easy to put a wheel on the dirt to drag you off the track, or perhaps clip a curb. So able to pull out that gap again. Across the line goes Matty Shepherd, still in second. The gap is up to 14 seconds. So I think that's been Summers being lapped by one of the other Coopers. It's very difficult to tell who that is, because a lot of people have taken the green Cooper. So Talviti and John Van der Geest in different paint jobs to give me a little bit of help visually. So John Van der Geest was close to Phil Brown early on, but has now dropped back. Anything can happen in this race. So Julian Paws, comfortable third now, going up through between the fences and out into the countryside. Lovely circuit this, and I'm glad that it was created to bring back the memories of the 1960s. It might not have been a Formula 1 track, but it fits right in with these 1950s Grand Prix cars. It's in with the theme. I mean, these cars would have raced around circuits that are very, very similar. Maybe a bit reminiscent of a 1960s Spa. A little more elevation change. So 13 minutes to go. So Talviti coming to the end of the lap. Having a little bit of stuttering on my end here, I apologise. There's not a lot I can do about it. Oh, Ben Summers gets it a little bit wrong there. Unfortunately, we went on board at the wrong time. Lovely spin turn, he was able to keep it the right way. Hopefully the driver behind in 5th was able to see a very slow Cooper come to a halt. But you see how easy it is just to grab a wheel of the dirt and around the car goes. He nearly saved it going one way, but Katsouris over the line for another lap. In a very comfortable 4th place. That will be 3 points from the championship. So we've got a couple of good rounds coming up in this championship. They are classic tracks from the era. They've been picked especially because of fitting in with these cars. So we'll be going next time out next week. Next Thursday we'll be at Dundrod, which will be a completely different type of track. It will be thinner, tighter corners between the hedges. Drivers are going to really have to memorise what turns coming up. Say a very similar length to this course, based out in Northern Ireland, but it fits in right in with the theme. And then on March 26th we will be heading to the beaches on the coast of Italy with a track called Napoli, a track that I think was used way back for maybe non-championship races before it was officially Grand Prix or Formula 1. And then on April the 2nd we head to France for Rouen. So I'm interested to know what layout we're using for Rouen, because sometimes when you have the chicanes in it can be slightly tricky, but we'll have to see. And the last round on April the 9th will be the Netherlands, or back to Zandvoort in the 1960s. So we had that course in one of our other broadcasts, but with completely different cars. So we, a few weeks ago, the Group 5 DRM cars were taking on the Zandvoort 1967 course, but now it's the 1950s cars' chance to do so. So 10 minutes to go. It's still Talviti out front, Shepherd in second, now 17 seconds behind the leader. Julian Paws is now third. And Kostas Katsouris in fourth, 14 seconds behind. So Talviti coming up to a Cooper. It looks to be Romain Lebreau just ahead. And Shepherd still pushing on in third. Hasn't let off the gas. The lap times are now still around the 2:45 range. Brown in fifth with this man John van der Gies. 13 seconds behind Phil Brown, unfortunately. That's our leader getting through. past the Remain Lebro. Ben Summers, that car is not handling very well at all. Muddling through in 9th place. Didn't look like he hit anything, but that car has not looked very comfortable. So maybe a bit unstable on the brakes, perhaps. Or maybe some of these corners just don't suit the handling of the car that he's got at the moment. So it looked a little like a Scandinavian flick, trying to get the front end of the car in there. Got a little bit of a slip on the rear end just to get the rear to come around some of the tighter corners. But with 8 minutes to go, some of these drivers maybe have lifted off a little. Like, we're not seeing the oversteering moments. We're not seeing the dramatic sliding or locking of tyres. So I think these drivers have maybe calmed themselves down a bit. So Cavallo in 10th. Was that Maddie Shepherd getting slightly close to the barriers there? That car still looks a little bit unstable. That's Remain Lebro going round. Maddie Shepherd came upon him very, very quickly. So quite lucky. And someone's still pushing on. Oh, that car doesn't look comfortable, does it? Coming down the hill through the trees. No particular threat from behind. So the fastest lap time of this race, 2:43.4. Talviti, the driver you're watching, is now backed off a little to the 2:44s. Brown is out of his own in 5th. He's still going to score points if he can just keep it going. Doesn't want any drama that he had last time out. Van der Geest is unfortunately going to miss out on points here. But still competitive. It does seem like the Cooper Climax is the car to have. It's not just the top 4. So we got Cooper Climaxes in 1, 2, 3 and 4. So that was Lebro either lapping or getting lapped. So Cooper Climax is in 1, 2, 3 and 4. In 6th, 8th and 9th. It just seems to be the car to beat, or the car to choose. It just seems to maybe have a bit of neutral handling. So 9th place. Unfortunately, Ben Summers gone around in the first part of the circuit. The car looks very, very unruly. Phil Brown still way behind 4th place, but still got points on the board if we can keep it going. So the track temperature has gone up after running. The air temperature is still 27, 28 degrees, but track temperature is now up to about 46. So I wonder whether it's getting a little bit hotter, making it a little bit slippier for these drivers. kind of imagining what would happen if we had a sun rain shower. Don't think the admins will be that cruel to perhaps have some rain with these cars and these tracks. It's a big enough challenge as it is. We are heading to tracks which are of a similar ilk. Some tighter than others. Possibly Ben wants perhaps take it to the pits. That car does look like it's crabbing along. Tony Dalbeatty still pushing on, still putting in the lap times. Sometimes best to just go at your own pace rather than lifting off, rather than letting off. Just continue to go at your standard rhythm. Kenzo is coming through this right-hander. See the car ahead. Brown and the D50 coming down the hill. We're coming down a hill, but a different part of the circuit. We'll start another lap. That, I believe, is John Vandergeest ahead of him. No, that would be Cavallo ahead of him. I did see a flash of blue, but it was the wrong type of blue. Yeah, there's the Maserati with Cavallo ahead. So Maddie Shepherd, that earlier push at the start, and possibly had dropped back a little. So with only 1.5 minutes to go. We have one more lap after this. So let's see who was the biggest winners and losers of the race so far. So it looks like Phil Brown is our biggest winner, coming up from the back of the grid, 6 places up the field. Currently be in the points, so that Lancia D50 has proved very, very useful indeed. So only the second and third only went up 1 place. Tony Dalbeatty did drop back early on, but managed to regain his lead after the first few laps. A little bit of a struggle to get around Julian Paws in the beginning. So Julian did put up a bit of a fight. It just seemed that he got a little bit out of shape, and Dalbeatty was able to get alongside and get past. So I think there will be one more lap after this. In fact, there won't be, because the timer has come to 0 and we are coming to the end of the lap. I was looking at my UI that said there's 1 lap left. I think it's lying. Coming down the hill for what will be the last time to the last corner of the track. Be Tony Dalbeatty. There's the yellow flag on track. John Vandergeest probably having some problems, but he's able to get it going again. Maddie Shepherd coming down the hill. Hopefully to finish second. Coming in 8th. I think Julian Powell is just coming around the final corner. Across the line is Julian Pause. I've got to get my head around saying pause instead of pow. This is Kanzurus. He's now come across the line in 4th. Phil Brown in 5th. Will be our next finisher. Tony Dalviti is our winner of the Sachsenring Grand Prix. Maddie Shepherd 2nd, Julian Pause in 3rd. Costas Kanzurus in 4th. And this very noisy sounding Lancia will be Phil Brown in 5th. And that will be the last of our finishers. The rest of our drivers have been lapped, so they will have crossed the line already. So, what a race. What a very, very interesting race. I was interested to see whether we would have any kind of accidents at the start of the race, but no particular trouble. The drivers seem to be able to get through okay. So let's have a look at the results. So session results, just to confirm. So Talviti takes the win. So it's been a different winner each race. Yeah, so 8 points goes to Tony Talviti. 2nd is Maddie Shepherd. That will be 4 points. Julian Pause in 3rd. That will be 4 points. Costas Kanzurus in 4th. That will be 3 points. So we have Phil Brown in the mighty Lancia D50, the nicest sounding car on the track, will be 5th. So that's the last of our points finishers. Unfortunately, John van der Geest will be outside the top 5. A valiant effort trying to stay in front of that Lancia D50, but unfortunately came a little bit unstuck in the last portion of the race. Finishes in 6th. So Jim Cavallo was battling with Romain Lebreau for a number of laps. Was able to get the better of Romain Lebreau in 8th when he came unstuck. So Julian Cavallo in his Maserati in 7th. Romain Lebreau is in 8th. And our DNFs, Marius Lebioda, Christian Dauger in 11th. And in 12th we have Gert van Osch. And 13th, Matthias Estrella. I think we may have missed someone on the list there. Ben Summers did finish 9th in the end. The last car on the lap. So, what have we got to come? So, as I noted before, we have our next Grand Prix in Northern Ireland, which will be on the 19th of March. So, Dundrod is our next Grand Prix. Then we'll be at Napoli in Italy. Heading over to France for Rouen, then the beaches of the Netherlands for Zandvoort. So, an interesting Grand Prix. Very interesting Grand Prix. Let's see if we can generate the points for you so we can see where people are. So it looks like we do have now Maddie Shepherd and Tony Talviti have shared a win between them and a second place, so that it looks like that they are heading the top of the championship with 14 points each. So this looks to be a very tight championship, and they look like the drivers to beat. So we look at the season standings. So Matty Shepard and Tony Talviti out top, 14 points each. Julian Paws in third with 7. And then Gert Van Osch, unfortunately, with his no score today, back down in 4th. Costas Kanzaras in 5th with 3. John Van der Geest in 6th with 2, along with Phil Brown in 7th with 2 points. So that's how the championship stands at this point, with 2 rounds gone and 4 rounds to go. So thank you for joining us today at Sim Racing Online. We do have some more series coming up, so it isn't just it for the 1950s Grand Prix series. In 2 days' time, on March 14th, we have the Group 5 DRM 70s and 80s Championship broadcast that will be broadcasting over on this YouTube channel. If you want to join us at Sim Racing Online, go over to simracingonline.co.uk and sign up. We do lots of sims, R-Factor 2, Le Mans Ultimate, Automobilista 2. We're dipping into Assetto Corsa Revo as well, along with Le Mans Ultimate broadcasts that will be taking place every Sunday or every other Sunday. So there's a P2 GT3 championship, so that's very interesting for a watch as well. So good action on track, classic cars, classic track. What's not to like? What's not to like at all? So I've been your host, Neil Wood. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.